Welcome to the Resourced Woman podcast and 6-part series exploring how you can learn to trust more deeply in yourself, find your resilience, center of access, where you belong and who you are, bringing yourself into a more intimate connection with self and source. I'm Briony Montgomery, mama to 4, body worker, coach, healer, teacher, and sometimes writer, founder of the Mother Way, a healing pathway I created for unmothered women who are ready to heal their mother wound by activating their power, resourcing themselves within, and longing to root themselves in belonging. And you can find out more about my work through my website, brionymontgomery.com. And today I'm here with Renee Longworth. And Renee is a qualified Feng Shui consultant, Geomancer, energetic healing practitioner and meditation facilitator, and has been assisting families and business women to shift into positive change for over a decade. Renee is also the creator of Return Home, an online course that assists you to come back to you with Feng Shui and home harmony. Renee loves working with female entrepreneurs, helping them highlight ways they can enhance their spaces in order to support their business and creativity, and also works one-on-one with them to energetically clear sabotage patterns, making it easier to reach desired goals and dreams. Renee also works with families who are going through transitions, like blended families, settling in new locations and or grief and trauma, and assists with helping them to heal as a unit and create a home that they can truly flourish in. Renee loves nothing more than to witness and support people to connect with their sacred spaces within and without. She is also a mama of 2 boys and an artist. And I'm so excited to be sharing this space today with Renee. So welcome. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me here.
I've just loved your work for so many years. I'm going, even 10 years, like 10 years.
Wow.
Discovered your work, and I've always been inspired by what you do and what you put out into the world, and how you radiate this authentic and grounded sense of who you are, but also the work and the healing that you bring through for others. And I'm always drawn to the way that you're very grounded in that, in the way that you present and in the way that you make Feng Shui and energy work and symbolism and even the Geomancy really tangible and easy for others to understand who haven't necessarily been, learnt those kind of modalities, or they've got a curiosity, and you kind of really make it really clear in a very not in a confronting way, in a really open and vulnerable and grounded way. I love that the work that you do with creating spaces, that in the idea that you've that I read, and that you always promote, that you're inside of yourself, your internal space reflects your external environment. And I can really relate to that through my own work. And I really love how you really, show people and how that reflects. So I'd love you to tell us how you came to this work, and was there an aha or a cha-ching moment that led you to become, a Feng Shui energy healing practitioner and Geomancer?
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a bit thank you for that. I'm so glad that how I'm being portrayed is actually what I'm trying to project as well. So it's great that it's actually, I'm achieving that. That's awesome. Yeah, look, how I became a Feng Shui consultant, there was many steps to that. So I first became an energetic healing practitioner, and I studied quite intensely for 3 years full time And then from that, I then started working in clinic spaces. And once I had my second son, I then had the opportunity to come back into practice and have my own clinic. So I followed it. I followed that gut instinct of, right, I've got this great opportunity. This location has popped up. It seemed like the perfect place, the perfect scenario. And so I took it and I ran with it. And I set that clinic up like to my most beautiful surrounding, how I wanted to set it up and how I felt reflected me and my taste and what I wanted to create as a sacred space for my clients. And so I went to town, like I did all the flooring myself, you know, I painted all the colors that I wanted, and I really created this really beautiful looking, should I say, space. And prior to coming to this clinic, I started building up a really lovely client base. I started to know other practitioners around our area. I was really busy with workshops and classes I was running. And then I came to this space, put all my heart and soul and really blood, sweat and tears. And then within probably about 3 months of being in that space, everything started to go a little bit odd. Like I started not having clients coming to see me. Practitioners that said that they would love to rent out the space, which would actually support a lot of my expenses while working from there. They would come and then they would say how much they loved it, but yet would never go ahead with renting the space. I even had practitioners just no-show me when they said they were coming to look at it. I had quite toxic energy on either side of it. It was like a shop front on a main street in a suburb. And on either side of me, there was issues with the neighbours and just really weird things. Like the real estate agent was really horrible, and they were actually a bit dodgy, financially dodgy. So like, and then I started to feel once I became aware of what was going on, I also started to feel a little bit paranoid while I was in that space. And I felt totally unmotivated. And I started to notice how I wouldn't be sitting in the common entrance way, that I started to actually lock myself away in this room at the back, the healing space. And so I started to do energy clearing work on it. But whatever I was doing, it just didn't shift it. And I was doing all the things that I thought I should be doing in a business, like sending emails and keeping connected to my clients and advertising in the local area that I'd opened, like all the normal business stuff that you're told to market your business, I was doing. And this space just went from bad to worse. And I'm a bit of a, dog with a bone when it comes to this sort of stuff. I wanted to find out why. Like, I love patterns and behavioral patterns and energetic patterns. And I really wanted to know, like, why is this occurring? I've done all the right things. This space looks beautiful. It's in a business district. It's, I'm marketing and everything that I should be doing. And it got to the point where I started book reading Feng Shui, and I just became really confused. And like I still don't understand it. So I went to study it. So by the time I got to the end of the lease, I was only there for like a year. And by the end of it, I was fed up. I was feeling like, even thinking about it now and thinking about that space, I felt sick, like energetically sick. And I got to the part of my course that I started to understand the energetic patterns of a space. And it wasn't until I had already packed up all my stuff, I was closing the doors of this clinic, And then I got that aha, yes, I found the next puzzle, like piece to the puzzle as to what was going on with that space. And it just, once I found out all of this, and I found out and learned about the energetics of spaces, then I've just like, okay, like this, yes, we're energy beings and we're individual energy beings. We are also part of our environment. Of course, that's going to affect the way we function and our behaviors and other people's behaviors and what we attract into our life. So to me, it's like Feng Shui is like the third part of who we are, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's how I came to it. Yeah.
I mean, I know that through energy healing, through my own, studying and learning, that you can walk into a space and feel the energy of a space. And I could kind of, when I was learning energy healing, I could kind of feel that was enhanced and directed. But, it's still different to Feng Shui. Like, I know a little bit about Feng Shui. I haven't studied it. Only through a practitioner I knew many, many years ago. But it is different because you're really, what I see with what you're doing and what you're showing and teaching is it's very specific to even just on the land that you're on too, like any former in the land as well. And so it takes it to a whole different level. Yeah.
And look, there's also many levels of energy to one space. It's just like us. We are multi-layered and leveled. We have our energy systems, organs, physical systems, emotional systems. And our space, our home, the land we're on, there's all different levels of energy. So the work that I do with geomancy and land and historical trauma or geological fault lines and the resonance that could be created from geopathic stress, that's completely different to the energy that I work with that's actually contained within the four walls of our home. That's a different level of reading into what that is. So that's why I personally feel like it's important to work with all the levels and layers of our space, because it won't be any one thing. It's never one thing. So it's like, a cold. If you have a cold, you don't just give yourself some vitamin C and there you go. You look at all the aspects of that. And it's the same with spaces and homes.
Yeah, I can kind of see as you're painting that picture, that the earth, being one human body and all those different organs and the dis-ease or the imbalances having an impact on other parts of that body, as in the human in the earth. So I can really, that's right. The geomancy and the land work that you're doing, as well as I can see that they're very different but very complementary together in really moving people into a more, from, like you've mentioned, from that stuck place in flow. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, if someone comes to me and they want to make a decision of, if they can't have both the services of a geomancy or Feng Shui, which would you choose? I always say geomancy, because the resonance that we live on, and if there's any geopathic stress that we're in, that is going to impact the chi that's coming into our homes. So regardless of how many Feng Shui cures, or regardless of how many things that we do on a Feng Shui level to remedy that internal chi within the four walls, if we're living on geopathic stress, if the stress of our sight is heightened, then it's going to impact whatever's happening, regardless of whether you've done really good Feng Shui or not. Like if you've gone down to every detail of what to do in your home according to Feng Shui, it will still be impacted by geopathic stress regardless.
So it's like the geopathic stress is like the foundation, like the roots of the tree, and you've got to have those sound and nourished in order for the tree
to grow well.
Yeah.
It can still grow, right? That tree can still grow, but is it growing with disease, or is it growing, you know, on a slant, or, you know, how strong is that tree?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
You know that you'd always be an energy healer. Like, I know that you've often shared, you know, that you've had interesting experiences as a child with the spirit world. Did you know that you would be following this pathway, or was it something that you kind of?
Yeah, I have had, my childhood was, I always had spirits come into my room, and it was either regarded as night terrors or, you know, my imagination or a dream. As an adult, I can stand back from that now and go, no, that was different realms of reality that I had access to. And, you know, that was, I believe that was brought on by childhood trauma of losing my father tragically when I was very young. And so for me, that sort of opened up that, you know, you have those wounds or traumas that open up you energetically to spaces, basically. And so I always went down like this went into my adulthood. It wasn't just a childhood thing. It filtered into my adulthood, and I needed to understand why, because, you know, I was going to places and I was sleeping in these areas when I was traveling, and I was, you know, sometimes being bombarded by spirits or energies, and not having any idea how to cope with that. So when I came back to Australia in my late 20s, 30s, I was actually in an abusive relationship, and it wasn't until after I left that it really made me want to pursue something that I love, because I felt like I hadn't been able to do that. I hadn't actually been able to like the things that I actually did like. So I consciously pursued things that created more meaning in my life, I guess, and helped me to understand myself better. So that's how I came to energy healing. And also, like, I was working in the health food industry, so I was working in a shop, and I had no idea that there was anything that was energetic healing. Like, you could go to a school and practice it. Like, really? Can you actually do that? I had no idea until one of the my co-workers was doing the course, and I'm like, oh my God, that will answer so many of my questions about my experiences. I have to do that. So that's how I came to energy work. And it was like, sorry.
There you go.
I was going to say, like, you know, it was my own therapy as well, like to overcome the grief that I had throughout my entire life. Like, I grew up just in grief and not knowing how to manage that or see that in an adult with adult eyes. So that was almost like my therapy as well, like coming out of an abusive relationship and through childhood trauma. So it was like a little package for me.
It got you really that was the you know, the before stepping into learning energy healing, there was like a spark there, like a calling, like a deep, you know, when I work with women, it's, you know, finding that inner spark, that inner flame that's often just simmering, that's been diminished or extinguished through trauma or experiences or situations. And they come to a place where they know there's something more, or they want to pursue something that their soul is calling to them to pursue. And they arrive with this very, you know, smoky kind of almost embery like fire in them, and getting them stoked in that fire, getting that passion, that creativity in their bodies. Would you say that you know, before, you know, the longing that you had before you stepped into energy healing, that was where you started to tap into your intuition and the longing and the resilience, and like the source, like connecting to something other than yourself, that was leading you into exploring those parts that had been filled with grief, or you know, been exiled or lost?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I could sort of come out of that to sort of clarify how that came about. I guess for me, there was always a longing with connection to spirit, always, because of that loss of my father. I always there was like this deep yearning to connect. So that's why I feel like I always could feel and sense energies around me. So that was always there, but the grief and the trauma sort of kept me back a little bit. It was just too intense. But also, in the relationship that I was in, because it was abusive, my inner self would wake me up in the middle of the night. I actually had, like, I would wake up and I'd have this voice going, this is not right, you're an independent woman, what's going on? Like, constantly telling me. It was a constant chatter, and it would literally wake me up in the middle of the night, tell me almost like, get out, what are you doing? You got to get out of here. This is not you. This is not right. It's so far removed from who you are. You need to get out of here. Like, that's what actually propelled me the most to literally leave that, because it was quite toxic, but it was that mental chatter. Like, and one of the really telling moments was I was living with the partner at the time and another woman as a flatmate, and she asked me whether I was in an abusive relationship, and I said yes, and thinking that she would actually help me. And you know, there's someone here listening, and she's female, and you know, she's going to assist me in some way, because I was that helpless at that time, or I felt I was. But one day I started to become gaslighted by not only my partner, but by this female housemate as well. And there was a moment in time that I truly thought I was going mentally crazy, because I had this outside reflection of people literally pretending like I didn't exist within the home. And at nighttime, my inner self telling me, this is not right. So there was that mismatch of external sources telling me one thing, and like my own knowingness and my own internal self, like just screaming at me every night, basically, which I'm so thankful for, because, you know, I just packed my bags and left one morning, just like I was out of there. But yeah, so that sparked it. And then it really made me reflect upon what is so important with myself, and to connect back into what actually lights me up, because it had been dampened for quite a few years.
I mean, that's an incredible story of resilience, of immobilizing resilience without even really being conscious, because resilience is an energy in itself that we can all tap into, that's always around us all the time. And as my teacher Shamali has said, you know, resilience grows the trees and the sun rises with resilience and sets every day. And so it's an energy that we can tap into all the time. And so your story is amazing because it shows how that energy of resilience that was in you, that was waking you up in the middle of the night, you know, and how you immobilize that to move you and save yourself essentially out of a situation that was toxic and abusive. So, wow.
Yeah, I was just like, thank God for those little voices, or like loud screaming voices, should I say.
In the middle of the night, yeah. And so I'd like to touch on how does the work that you do offer a pathway into feeling resourced within or connected for the listener, or any person, any woman or person that's coming to looking at doing energy work, or, you know, geomancy or Feng Shui, and what you offer, and what, you know, what would be a pathway into them feeling that they're resourced, that they're tapped into their intuition and their resilience and, you know, their inner knowingness.
So I've just launched a new course, and this is what I teach. So like Feng Shui is not just moving furniture around the house. It's looking at your home and your floor plan and your external self and how that actually reflects your patterns. And once you start to understand the symbology of your space, you can understand the patterns within yourself and the dynamics of whoever you're living with. So being able to use your external surroundings in really practical ways, like we can literally pick up our symbology rather than, you know, see a symbol in meditation. You literally picking them up in a physical form, because everything that's outside of yourself and you have control over to a certain extent, like your home and your furniture, they are physical extensions of yourself, and that's all of your past choices. So if you look at everything that you have in your home, that's your past, that's your patterns, that's everything that you have consciously chosen for yourself, whether you know, or subconsciously chosen it for yourself. You may not be aware that you've done that on purpose. So once you start learning the symbology of your space and what it means, and then you're actually working with your internal patterns. Whenever you're working externally, you're working internally, and vice versa. I don't know whether you've ever noticed, like I go and see acupuncturist quite regularly, and I do notice I get liver chi stagnation. So that's a stagnation. We just like stagnation. Every time I go and see the acupuncturist and she starts shifting the energy for me, I seem to always start to do clearing on my house afterwards as well. So it means that, you know, we work and play within these realms of how, yes, your home has its own identity and its own entity, and so do we. But there's this amazing play that we have with our space, that we reflect our space, but our space also reflects us, and we have these choices and this power to actually change our spaces to reflect what we want to feel inside. And also, it's not only, you know, those physical aspects of our home, but I also teach how using your home and the energetics of a space, you can tap into you like easier than, you know, locating areas of your home that's energetically balanced in order for you to then use that space to be able to meditate and go within without any external stresses like geopathic stress that can actually create disruption within your own energy, mental thought patterns, emotional patterns, things like that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of my home going, oh yeah, that's right. Literally going, yeah, everything, yeah, I know this, and yeah, that's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I can imagine, I'd like you to speak to, you know, is it easier for women, you know, to look in their home first instead of going straight into themselves? Is it like it's a little bit easier for some to start there?
Yeah, especially if you're like a high mental intellect person. Some people find it really super difficult to sit in meditation or to actually gain those insights of self-awareness because they're so in their head, their mental chatter, their intellect, maybe their work is very head dominated. So working with your physical aspects of yourself, including your external physical areas, then it actually creates that connection between the physical and the internal. So when you are aware of what, say, a bedroom means on one level, then working with your bedroom space can actually bring that awareness to what you're working internally. So a bedroom just generally is all about our relationships and health. So if you want to work with your relationship, your intimate relationship with your spouse, then creating bedrooms to reflect what you actually really want actually enhances that within your own life, but also starts to get you aware of, you know, where does this sit within my own, you know, my values and my patterns in relationships.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. I'm just finding everything you're saying really fascinating, and really can see, as I said, like in my own environment where I'm the air energy, because I've always been very focused on my environment and my space, and just the last, you know, kind of, or since we've moved 12 months ago, things have slipped a little bit. So I can feel really, you know, how, and I'm reminded again at the importance of that, you know, that external environment supporting me in my internal landscape and my relationships. So yeah, I find it really amazing. As a mum, because, you know, being an energy healer, practitioner, and, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, running a business and doing, you know, the work that you do with the Feng Shui and Geomancy and now course, and a wife, I know it's challenging. Like I straddle, you know, between mama and family and then the work, and then there comes a point that you can't kind of keep the two separate, you know, like if you're going to be grounded and make some real transformation in the world, they've got to be both rooted in together. And I'd love to know how you weave what you do into your everyday as a mama and a partner, or, you know, and in your relationships and in practical, you know, even, I mean, I often make lots of mistakes. It's a lot of trial and error, which I like doing because it's quite funny. My kids are a bit wacko. Even, you know, like, yeah, how do you weave it in, and how do you kind of readjust things when things just kind of a little bit too woo-woo, which they can do. Like, you know, they can look at you going, what? Where have you come from? How do you brace that? How do you straddle that? How do you move with that?
I am not perfect. No one is perfect. I get cranky at my kids too. I just want to put that out there. Doesn't matter how much Feng Shui and Geomancy that you do, you know, things still are challenging sometimes. So there's lots of different ways, and it can be really woo-woo. Like my partner, he trusts me and he totally believes everything that I do, but he doesn't necessarily needs to be in that world for him. So if anything's happening in his work or anything like that, I do clearings for him, and I tell him, and he'll go, yeah, good. And but he will also relay, you know, what's occurred after. So he really does believe in it, but he doesn't get into the detail, if that makes sense. And I tell him where he should be sitting and what he should be doing in his space, a little bit secret squirrel. Don't always tell, because he works with other people. So like, yeah, just do this. So I sort of, I work with him and his business in that way. With the kids, I always ensure that we're, you know what kids are like with clutter and their stuff. So, you know, we fluctuate. I allow there to be fluctuations. Nothing's going to be perfect. No home is perfect. No feng shui of a space is perfect. Your home has its challenges, and it's in your floor plan. I can see what they are if I get to look at it. Nothing is perfect. No home is perfectly feng shuied. It's just impossible. So what that tells me is that our life is not meant to be in perfect static state all the time. Allow yourself to go with the ebbs and flows of your family life. So with the house, with the boys' bedroom in particular, because clutter, you know, can impact kids. They can handle clutter a little bit more than adults, purely because they're always, you know, they're super creative and they're always in that self-development stage. But also it can impact or compound any sort of challenges that they may be having anyway. So ensuring that we go through fluctuations of decluttering their room, keeping it in order, and clearing stuff. So my kids sometimes also picks up energy from school, and we clear them, and they're quite open to it. So we've been doing this for really, like, since they were born. So I've been doing this. I was a practitioner before they were born. So they're quite aware of my woo-woo-ness, and they love it too. So I'm also a practitioner of bushflower essences, and I've got the kit here, and whenever they're feeling out of whack, or we just go, all right, choose an essence, and they get to choose it, not, you know, and then we talk about what that means or how it could be coming up, or we don't. Sometimes they just go, yeah, all right, and they go off and play. So there's that sort of scenario. We've changed bedrooms to enhance our support our health and relationships, and yeah, so I feng shui our house, and I do geomancy, and I do clearings on our house, and lots of different things. Lots of different things. I work from home, so I always I've always got my tools at hand. So yeah. And I also, you know, my mum, I make sure I've moved her out of her bedroom, which was like in the sickness star. So I'm like, you're not sleeping there, Mum. You have to use the other room. So the things like that, you know.
Yeah, because life is, you know, I think, you know, when we come to, you know, when you come to doing some kind of energy work or meditation or some sort of esoteric teaching, you're drawn to that. There can be, which what I had and what I'm very conscious of, that there's this illusion or idea that we can meditate or we can do spiritual practices to move ourselves into different people, or to move ourselves into a different state of being, like more calm as women and more Zen-like. And that's kind of not the case. It's not been the reality for me and a lot of the women practitioners that I know in doing, whether it's meditational practice, embodiment practice, but also energy work, and that life is messy. That's kind of the crux of it. This work teaches you, gives you tools to meet life as it is in who you are. And that's what, it's what I really love about your sharing, as you know, what you're sharing about how you move with it in your day to day, because it's not that it takes you away from the reality or puts you in a meditating monk position on a mountain. You're doing, which is valid, but you're doing work on a day-to-day, very practical level as a woman, with, working with others, but also growing her children and her relationship and family with a rooted sense of practical tools for supporting themselves and a more rooted sense of who they are, as opposed to moving themselves out of that trying to shape themselves into something a little bit different.
Yeah, or perfectionism.
Is a big one. Yeah.
Like to be the ideal woman, partner, mother, it's acceptance of self. Like, you should see my bedroom right now. Like, it's a mess. I've got clothes there, some from when we went away last weekend. Like, I'm not perfect. I know it's there. My awareness is, I know it's there. I'm not going to stress myself out to have that perfect bedroom just because I'm a Feng Shui consultant. It doesn't mean that I have to, that's stress within itself, right? We don't want to be creating stress just to try and to find the perfection. It doesn't make any sense. So it's like, I'm super busy with what I'm doing at work. That's just, that's not the priority right now.
Yeah,
it's just
recovering perfectionism, like that idea that everything, and that idea that there's superwoman and the image of mother who is just idealized in the culture and the globe, and it's a commodity and it's marketed as this kind of image, when it's just so removed from the actual reality. I mean, I hate housework. I hate it with a passion. And so I do it, and I do it. I have my sister living with us for the last 12 months. And so she helped with the kids, which has just been amazing. You can't do it all on your own. She does the housework for me, because I just can't physically do it. And I don't like to do it. I'm just, and I just, you're right. Like, it's just prioritize what's really important. You're aware of the other stuff, and you just cut yourself some slack.
Absolutely. Yep. And, there's Feng Shui, there's this belief that Feng Shui is like the most minimalist Zen practice that you have to achieve. And if you don't achieve that, then, it's not Feng Shui, or it's not perfection. But that's not the reality. I mean, and Feng Shui was actually created through a need from the emperors. The emperors actually employed Feng Shui masters to build their cities and build their empire so they can then reign over the land. And then that's sort of filtered down through centuries to your home life. And home life isn't like a palace. It's not to take over and command space and land over others. It's not. So, and also in ancient China, we didn't have wet rooms and bathrooms and, laundries internally inside the house. And just simply by having them in our home actually creates a lot of the challenges within the chi and the energy of our sites. So it's like, it's not supposed to be like that. It's having a relationship with your space.
So it's like a patriarchal system of how Feng Shui has been created. And now, you know, and you've, you know, adopted it, practicing it in more of a feminine, grounded, practical, creative, almost creative, like with the energies actually flowing through, and it has adapted the actual teachings to be more relevant and attainable, like now in life.
Absolutely. And, you know, with Feng Shui and Chinese astrology, we're all in these cycles, and it's not just one cycle. Like, I think there's this view that there's only one cycle that we're ever in. There's only one house that we embody, so it only has one layer of energy. It's not, it's so dynamic, and it's so like creative, like you were saying, but there's so many levels of cycles that we're in, and in at this actual moment in time, where in all of these cycles are coming to the end, and we're in this transition on all different levels. So we're in this really very dynamic, very new energy, and we're all trying to get through it the best way we can. But yeah, like, and the energies within your home changes every 20 years. And then you also have every 60 years you have another cycle, and every 3 years you have another cycle, and every year, month, hour, it's constantly different energies coming in and out of our home, and planetary wise.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know about the 20. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we're coming at 2024 is the end of a 20-year cycle. So it's major. And, you know, cycles aren't cut and dry. We start to feel the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new cycle at least a year to 2 years before it actually ends. Maybe even 3 years, because what are we now? 2020. So this age of 8, which is the trigram of the mountain. So we're in mountain energy. So if you consider that mountain energy, and we're at the end of the cycle, so it will end in 2023, and our new cycle comes in 2024. That mountain is stability. So at the end of a cycle, whatever isn't in alignment with that cycle will be like trying to squeeze it in. By the end of the cycle, the new one comes. So that it's that stability, it's internally referenced, it's internally governed, how we are coming back to ourselves and not being influenced so much by the outside world, and really learning how whatever is not in alignment with ourselves, it will either be forced upon us because we have to, because that's the cycle, or we change with it and we allow it to drop away.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, in what's happening in this last year. And, you know, when I was tuning into the energy these last few years, and I used to do monthly distant healing for people, and every time, you know, for the last 2 years, it's been really strong. Get congruent, get your ducks in line, get really clear, get rooted in, like, and I kind of was going, like, it can't be the same. It sort of had the same really strong energy. And I kind of thought, no, like, I just knew that, you know, that something big was coming. Every year was rolling in, and it wasn't, the energy for at least the last 5 years hasn't been letting up. And I've just been, okay, just get grounded, just get really clear, just, you know. So it's been really interesting. And you sharing that makes it a lot of sense, because globally what's happening with the pandemic, but also with how many elections and how much unrest in the world there is, and with the BIPOC movement, and even with women, like, there's a lot of women who just starting to sprout through and really roar with their voices, you know, with things that they've probably have tempered with for so long. So it feels like the final hour in something that's revolutionary in our evolution.
And it is like, we have never like my teacher, my Chinese astrology teacher, has said, us as a humanity has never undergone this type of transformation through this cycle ever before. It's where we cannot rely on external governance anymore. We have to rely on internal governance. And so we're going into now age 9, which is like a transitional 20-year cycle. It's the end of the 9 cycles, but it's not really regarded as an ending. It's regarded more as a transitional cycle, whereas the age 8 that we're in now to 2024, that's the end of the cycle of that 160-year cycle. So like there are so many cycles. It's so fascinating. This age 9 cycle that's coming up, that will start to we're starting to see come into play now, is the fire element. And the fire element's all about, heart-centered, mainly, following your passion, but it's also spiritual, energetic energy. Fire element is the only element that is not grounded on earth. It has to have something else for it to source from, for it to be alive. So it reflects that spiritual aspect of ourselves and getting connected spiritually, and also, but high tech. So this is where we're getting all this really high tech stuff. Everyone's connecting, but it's through Zoom, and it's through, really high tech. Different things are going to be coming about, different technology, in order for everyone to still stay connected, but everything will become more energetic. So energy healing, relying on our own intuition, is going to be even heightened even more, and more well accepted, which is yay, at last.
Right. I mean, I was doing this when I was, 15, 18 years ago. You're a bit weird, a bit strange. Yeah. And now people are talking about their energetic healers, or their energy healers, or their spiritual teacher, like people I would never have thought, which I'm really glad. But that resourcing within, that's what I'm feeling too, which is, why this podcast is birthing right now, is that inner knowing, that intuition, that resilience, that sense of who you are. Because I can see that external resourcing in governments and organisations and globe, and even our bloodline, even our family, even our parents, our communities around us, that's all starting to fall away, and we're being asked to sit, and even with the pandemic, like everything's shutting down, to sit still and be with who we are, and start to reflect and draw our awareness within, and what do we want to plant seeds for the future, like where are we going to plant our seeds for the future, and how we're going to move with which is in flux right now. We don't know what the new world, or what the new globe is going to be looking like. And so the only thing we really have control over is actually how we're showing up on a day-to-day basis. And that really comes back to using, Feng Shui, and looking at Geomancy, and looking at your intuition, and listening to that voice that wakes you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That, those areas that don't feel right energetically, that, those insights that you're getting, or those senses that you're getting, to really honor and follow those, and trust in themselves, because you're your best own governance. You're your best own advocate for yourself as a woman, and even for your family. So you kind of, putting yourself back as a woman into the heart of the dynamic of family, to be able to lead and guide on what this next cycle, what this next world looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you share, we're going to wrap it up soon, but can you share with the listeners something that they could do right now to feel more resourced within? something that you do, or something that, you know, works for your clients? Or
it would be as simple, you can get as simple as you want, as simple as taking a breath. You can just purely taking a breath. It allows you to step away from the external and truly be within your own body. You can do that with yogic breathing, breathing into your belly, to allow you to get centered. Or you could do something as simple as decluttering something in your home, which allows you to have more clarity and allows you to see what's going on because you don't have all this noise, this external energetic noise around you that can be giving you so many different messages, external messages that just don't align with what's going on. So there's so many different ways. You could just go and sit in your backyard and be with nature. So my big thing, and the reason why I do this type of work on a grander perspective, is I want people to be connected with Mother Earth and connected with Spirit. And it's all the same thing at the end of the day. Nature is spirit. And having a connection and an understanding and a communication towards your surroundings and with your surroundings allows you to be even more connected with spirit, even more connected with yourself. So you can do that in so many different ways within your home, and it just simply sitting in your home and acknowledging your house to sitting outside and being in with nature. It's all about connection.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I think when we get overwhelmed and in that trauma response, which is what we see a lot happening right now, so we forget that we can just sit where we are and breathe, or go into the backyard. You don't need much. You can actually sit on the grass, or you can just put your feet on the grass if you don't like the grass. You can actually, and then just breathe and look at the trees and hear the birds.
Yeah.
A beautiful thing. Beautiful practice to do.
Yeah. And look, some people think that they can't meditate, or they're too in their heads, or it doesn't matter. Like you said, it's just observing. You just look at the plants, listen to the birds, and you are there. You don't have to do much else.
Yeah. Yeah, because we are so connected to our environment and to the world and to other beings as well. Learning a lot about animism right now, and other elements as beings too, and that kind of I always knew innately, but kind of blows my mind still. It gets me excited. But yeah, connecting with the other beings, the plants, the animals, the soil, the air, the elements, the directions. There's so many different ways that you can really just feel resourced within, feel supported and connected.
Supported, yes, because when you understand that you are part of the environment, you're not separate to it, and you said, there's those other beings around energetically, and that's the type of stuff that I work with Geomancy. It's knowing that you actually aren't alone, even though you are. It's like you have so much support, even if that support doesn't look like your normal, partner or mother or, people that you work with. It can come from different sources. It can come from your surroundings.
I think, once you're rooted within, and hearing you speak right then, I can really feel that even for myself, that confirmation that when you're rooted into your resources and you're feeling connected within, you never actually feel alone, like ever. And I remember a time, even like before, that was really clear that there was a sense of loneliness, or that I didn't belong, or, and I see that too with other women as well. But once you're connected in and you're rooted right in, there is no disconnect. There is no alone. There is no isolation. There is always a presence and a connectedness and support and energy and other beings around you that you can really lean into and enjoy.
Yeah. And it's exciting and it's like magical. And it's just like, oh, this is so like cool. Yeah.
So those listening, I know that you're running your e-course right now. Did I see that you're running a new course early next year in January?
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to access your work and wants to work with you or find out more,
Yeah. So I've just launched the very first round of Return Home, which the name in itself means to return home to your physical home, but also internally. So being internally referenced. And I'm running it again. I'm doing another live round in January. I don't have a date just yet, but I find January a really great time that people are at home just after that holiday period, and they're in that mode of doing things with their home and, you know, restoring or being able to faff about their space. So it's a really good time to do it. It's also at the end of the Chinese astrological year, because the Chinese New Year actually starts on the 4th of February every year, or the 5th, depending. But it's that end of year sort of clearing out that old energy and really setting yourself up for the year ahead. And so you can come and have a look on my website. I have a page there with all the information on. I'm really hands-on. I can't sit back and just like let the course run. I'm in there in that Facebook group that we have as well. And I've now changed our Facebook Lives to Zoom classes, because I really need to see your face and I need to have a conversation with you. I can't just like talk to comments on Facebook. It just doesn't work. So I like to see how everyone's doing the work and getting really great results, or moving through some challenges that always is going to come up, and knowing how to navigate that for themselves. So yeah, jump on my website, reneelongworth.com, and there'll be links to Return Home online course. And I'm so excited about this work.
I'm excited for you. It looks amazing. I have yet to jump in I've yet to jump in, but I'm sure that I'll be looking at that for January.
Yeah.
But I'll link everything to your one-on-one work as well as your Geomancy work, if people want to look at, you know, working with you in relation to how their home's feeling and the land's feeling and how they're feeling, and how you can help them to really move more back into flow and feel connected within themselves. So I'll put the link and everything in at the bottom of the podcast, link it to the podcast, they can find your work. I've really loved, Renee, chatting with you today and sharing this space. It's been actually really fun, and listening to you, I'm kind of quite mesmerized by your knowledge and your reverence for the work that you do and the way that you're presented, and the love that you have for the work is just really inspiring. And it's really such an honor for you to, you know, to share the space with me today. I just want to wrap up the podcast. Thanks for listening to the Resource Woman podcast series. And make sure you subscribe to brionymontgomery.com to receive the series updates and any new episodes straight into your inbox. That's all from me right now, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me.